Navigating change is really understanding the environment around you. And the three things that I would suggest is I always tell people keep talking. Talk is cheap. Keep talking. Even though I was very happy at Ronstadt, I was very happy at Towers Parent and other organizations at Fidelity. But when something comes across your desk, it's always good to find out what's going on outside of your own
How did
environment.
you go about making career decisions for yourself?
Uh, This is a really good question because it ended up being the best decision I ever made in my career. Majority of my decisions were in my control, but I also had one that wasn't in my control. Going to work the first day after taking, a week or two off, and I remember driving to work, and it was the first day I was afraid driving to work. It's scary, right? I have to
Hey,
do
Bob, thanks for
well.
joining us today.
All right, good to be with you, Jonathan. Looking forward to this.
Yep, me too, me too. So, as you know and you're aware, there's a lot of change going on in the work world today, a lot of evolution and things. People don't know really how to navigate this level of change that we're going through. I think it's accelerated. Change is a constant,
Yeah.
but it seems like things are accelerating. And so I really want to get into a conversation about what that means for people in their career pathing, how they should start to make decisions for themselves professionally, and those type of topics. So that being said, I know you've done a number of things in your career, and so you're a perfect person to ask about this topic, which is change management and how you navigate
Yeah.
change. So, given what we've talked about with the rate of change accelerating, if you could give some tips, like say your top three, what would be your top three keys for navigating this type of change?
Well, it's interesting. I think people feel like rate of change is far greater today than maybe it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's just a different kind of change. I think it's something that we all experience throughout our entire career. And when I look at it and say, how do you navigate change? Because navigating change is understanding what the change is. I mean, many people, you'll hear them say, wow, things are really changing a lot. But if you ask them to articulate really what is the change and what's the impact on, myself or that individual, it tends to break down a little bit. So, I mean, navigating change is really understanding the environment around you. And the three things that I would suggest is one, and I really took this to heart earlier in my career in terms of managing change, is volunteering. And what do I mean by that is a lot of times people, kind of keep their head down, especially in tougher economic times when you're not feeling as secure in your position. But volunteering for new projects, new opportunities, or getting out of your comfort level, instead of doing your day in and day out job, kind of that extra, and experiencing something a little bit different than what you do in your day to day. The other thing is, I always tell people keep talking. Talk is cheap. Um, and it's really around the networking. It's kind of interesting. I do a lot of mentoring. I'm still mentoring an individual from University of Florida, that's USF, and I always say keep networking, keep talking. It's interesting. Throughout my career, I've always had opportunities for other jobs. Even though I was very happy at Ronstadt, I was very happy at Towers Parent and other organizations at Fidelity. But when something comes across your desk, many people would say, well, I'm really happy what I'm doing. I don't want to talk. It's always good to find out what's going on outside of your own environment. So, and it also gives you an opportunity to network with somebody outside of the day-to-day work. And third, most important, be inquisitive. Um, it's a lot of times people are afraid to ask, and you learn from asking. In the workplace, I love people who are actually inquisitive. When you're dealing with your kids and they're asking you why over and over again, sometimes that can be a burden. But in the workforce, be inquisitive, volunteer, network. be inquisitive. That's how you navigate change or the way you actually understand how change is happening to you,
Okay. You know what I like about that? I see a common thread through those three, and that's kind of empowering yourself and
right?
taking action, and it's almost leaning into the change versus away from it.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very good way to navigate it and deal with it because sometimes it's the change that's outside of our control that we're most concerned about, not the change that we are in control of. So it's the lack of control that sometimes we struggle with. What do you think
But
about
it
that?
doesn't mean you're going to be able to control every step of the change, right? But at
Yeah.
least you're more informed as to what's the best step for me to take based on what I know, as opposed to just being in the dark, right? But it doesn't mean you can control every step or every career opportunity. Um, there's an element of being in the right place at the right time as well, too.
Okay. And then focusing on how you handle the change versus the change itself. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. I'm with you. So, you've had a career journey where you've done a number of different things. And so I want to talk about career shifting, like deciding what your career path is. How did you go about navigating your career decisions with deciding when you wanted to pivot, how you wanted to pivot, and just the trajectory along the way? How did you go about making career decisions for yourself?
Uh, this is a really good question because the majority of my decisions were in my control, but I also had one that wasn't in my control earlier in my career as well, too. You know, the biggest change I made, and this goes back a while, I changed jobs, I got married, I had a child, and I bought my first house all like in an 18-month period, right? So when you look at all the big life changes, within almost a 2-year period, I've almost hit them all. And the toughest decision out of all those changes was changing my job.
Hmm.
And the reason being, Jonathan, I was very, very secure with where I was at, but something about the new opportunity just kept like rubbing at me like there's something here, there's a nugget here that can take me to a place maybe I can't get to where I'm at today, even though I was very, very happy. And so I took that leap of faith. And I took that leap of faith because at that point in time, um, my wife was employed, so I had a little bit of a security net. And I took that leap of faith. Um, it ended up being the best decision I ever made in my career because it launched me into an organization that was going through change that created upward opportunities upward opportunities for me at a faster rate than if I had stayed where I was at.
Okay.
Now, not all of that was known day one. So some of it is a leap of faith. Some of it is, hey, I can take on a bigger job day one, and there's fear in taking on a bigger job. So everybody says, hey, I'm taking this job because I'm getting promoted, but there's also fear, and there should be a little bit of an adrenaline going to it. So I always went by 70% fact and 30% intuition, right? Like, what's my gut telling me? If somebody tells me that they put everything in a spreadsheet and that's how they made the decision to move from company A to company B or role A to role B, I don't believe it.
Okay.
Because there are elements of making moves that have to do with what am I going to be doing next? How am I going to get stretched? Who am I going to be working with? And all my decisions and all my career changes have been based on that, with the exception of one where I was let go from a role and then I had to go and make a change that wasn't in my plans, right? So that was a little bit different. I had to move quicker on that one. The other ones I had to be a little bit more thoughtful.
Okay.
Um, but but making career changes really depends upon where you're at in your life. You know, when my children were young and I made a career change, those were scarier because you got to put food on the table, you got to put a roof over their heads, and the responsibility is bigger than yourself. Later in my career, when I'm empty nesters and my children are off and fine, those career changes don't feel as risky. They feel more about what do I want to do to feel fulfilled in my day-to-day work life.
Okay. So your decision making process can evolve over time.
Oh, it
Ba-
does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's a good point. Good to know because life stage plays a lot in that because it has different implications.
Yeah, let me tell you one story. I mean, when I my son was born, I remember going to work the first day after taking a week or two off, and I remember driving to work, and it was the first day I was afraid driving to work because it was the first day in my life, and I was around 30, 31 at the time. I'm like, I'm driving to work because I have to, not because I want to, right? And so that's a different kind of fear or a different kind of adrenaline rush to ensure that you succeed in the role. And it's scary, right? It's I have to do well, and therefore I have to be more cautious about the changes I make because I have to be a little more secure in my employment.
Okay. Okay. Man. Yeah, that's definitely something to consider in how you go about making decisions and whether or not you even make a transition at all.
Exactly.
Because sometimes timing is everything, right?
Oh, it's more than half of it probably,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's where you are in your life stage, right? And what's going on in your life as well too.
Yeah, absolutely.